Okay, if you've been on social media at all recently, you've definitely seen it. Athletes, celebrities, maybe even your neighbor. It seems like everyone is willingly jumping into ice-cold water. The cold plunge has absolutely exploded, right? It's gone from this niche thing for athletes to a massive wellness trend. But what's actually going on inside your brain and body when you take that leap? Let's dive into the science behind the shock. You know, this whole idea isn't exactly new. The ancient Romans had their cold pools, Nordic cultures have been doing winter swimming for centuries, and of course athletes have used ice baths for decades. But now it's being pitched as this ultimate biohack for everything from your mood to your metabolism. So we've got to ask, what does the science actually say about all this?
So that's the big question for us today, isn't it? Are we looking at a real revolution in health and how we build resilience? Or is this just the latest and, let's be honest, most painful wellness fad? It's time to separate the hard science from the hype.
Okay, to really get what's happening with a cold plunge, you have to understand this one core concept, hormesis. The best way to think about it is like lifting weights at the gym. You're intentionally putting your muscles under a controlled amount of stress, right? And that stress is the signal that tells them to repair and grow back even stronger. A cold plunge is basically that same idea, but for your entire system. The cold isn't just about feeling cold. It's a deliberate stressor that kicks off this powerful, strengthening response in your body.
All right, so let's get right into it. The very second you hit that cold water, your body doesn't really have time to think. It just reacts. It unleashes this powerful, ancient survival program. And this initial shock, well, it's the foundation for everything that comes next, both the good and the potentially bad.
It's officially called the cold shock response. See, water pulls heat away from your body something like 25 times faster than air does. That triggers this massive fight or flight response. The very first thing you'll notice is that involuntary gasp for air. You can't control it, and then your breathing gets fast. This intense primal reaction is the first hurdle you have to clear to get to all the powerful effects of the plunge.
So while your body is freaking out a little bit, your brain is doing something incredible. It's releasing this flood of really powerful neurochemicals. This isn't just a vague feeling. It's a measurable biochemical event. And when we look at the actual numbers, they are absolutely staggering.
I mean, just get a load of this. Research has shown that plunging into cold water can cause up to a 530% increase in norepinephrine. This is a huge player in your brain for things like vigilance, focus, attention, and mood. It's the reason you feel so incredibly alert and sharp after you get out.
And it doesn't stop there. Dopamine, the molecule we associate with motivation and reward, can shoot up by 250%. But here's the real kicker. Unlike other things that spike your dopamine, this increase is slow and sustained. It can last for hours after you get out of the water. That's the real science behind that incredible feeling of well-being people talk about.
Okay, so that massive neurochemical rush explains why you feel so amazing right after. But what about the lasting benefits? What does the science say you actually get out of this? It's time to really separate what's proven from what's just marketing.
When you look at all the research, it really boils down to three core areas where there's solid evidence. First, improving your mental resilience by actually changing how your brain operates. Second, speeding up physical recovery, especially for athletes. And third, giving your metabolism a pretty significant tune-up.
So let's talk about the brain. You know how sometimes you get stuck in your own head, just looping over the same thoughts? Well, there's a part of the brain called the default mode network that's responsible for that. In brain scans, fMRI scans, a cold plunge basically forces a cognitive reset. It shifts activity away from that internal chatter and forces you into the present moment. You are quite literally pulled out of your own head.
Now, for physical recovery, this is where the evidence is really solid. The cold causes your blood vessels to constrict, which limits blood flow to your muscles right after a workout. This reduces the inflammation and swelling that cause that classic day-after soreness. In the world of sports science, this is probably the most well-established benefit of all.
Okay, but it is not all sunshine and dopamine spikes. We have to be real here. This is a powerful stressor you're putting on your body, and if you use it at the wrong time or in the wrong way, it can actually be counterproductive or even dangerous. So it is absolutely crucial to understand the trade-offs.
And this brings us to the biggest trade-off for anyone trying to build muscle. Here's the deal. That same inflammation the cold plunge reduces, it turns out that inflammation is actually a key signal that tells your muscles to repair and grow bigger and stronger. So if your goal is to recover fast so you can compete again tomorrow, a plunge is great.
But if your goal is to maximize muscle growth, studies show that jumping in ice water right after a workout can actually blunt your gains.
Now, you've probably seen those fancy futuristic cryotherapy chambers and wondered, is that better than just a tub of ice water? Well, the science is pretty clear on this. Even though the air in those chambers is incredibly cold, air is just a really bad conductor of heat. Water is far, far more effective at pulling heat out and cooling your deep tissues. So for recovery, a simple ice bath is often superior, or at the very least just as good, and it's a whole lot cheaper.
All right, we have to talk about the really serious risks. There's a rare but dangerous thing called autonomic conflict, where your body gets competing signals to both speed up and slow down your heart, which can cause an irregular heartbeat. There's also something called afterdrop, where your core body temperature can actually keep falling after you get out of the water. This is why it is absolutely critical, and I can't stress this enough, that anyone with a heart condition, Raynaud's disease, or who is pregnant must avoid this, or at the very least get direct approval from their doctor.
Okay, so knowing all of that, the good, the bad, and the risky, what's the smart way to actually do this? How can we get the benefits while staying safe? Let's put together a protocol based on the evidence.
The data points to a real sweet spot. You don't need painfully freezing water. Somewhere between 50 and 59 degrees Fahrenheit is plenty cold enough to trigger all those great responses. You want to aim for about 2 to 5 minutes per session, maybe 2 to 4 times a week. And a lot of recent research suggests aiming for a total of 11 minutes of cold exposure spread out over the week. That seems to be a key threshold for getting those lasting benefits.
And here's a quick pro tip for you. If you want to get the most metabolic bang for your buck, you have to resist that powerful urge to jump straight into a hot shower. By letting your body rewarm itself naturally, you force it to activate its own internal heaters, like brown fat, and burn energy to warm you up. It basically extends the metabolic benefits of the whole session.
So, if you're thinking about trying this, here's your safety checklist. First, and most importantly, get medical clearance if you have any health concerns at all. Second, start short. Seriously, even just 30 to 60 seconds is a huge win at the beginning. Third, focus all your attention on controlling your breath to override that initial gasp reflex. And fourth, and this is non-negotiable, never ever plunge alone.
So after looking at all the science, it's pretty clear the cold plunge is way more than just a fad. It's a really powerful tool for both your body and your brain. But maybe the most profound benefit isn't the dopamine or the reduced inflammation. Maybe it's the practice of willingly choosing to be uncomfortable and teaching your mind to stay calm in the face of that stress, which kind of leaves you with one last question to think about. What in your life are you building all that resilience for?